Hello, hello. Welcome to our first ever Lessons After Sessions podcast. I'm Trevor Kendrick.
And I am Jen Carlton.
Hello, Jen.
Hello, Trevor.
You can call me Trev.
Oh, good deal. Trev.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think about this first podcast?
I'm pretty excited about it. I think that it's going to be hopefully helpful to everyone who's listening and provide some kind of insight into just questions that are everyday that we can kind of work through on our own and talk about.
I love that. I love that. Why would people want to listen to us?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think we're kind of some hot ass bitches.
Woo, yeah.
So there's that. I mean, no, that you can't see us, but either way, we're pretty cool. We're down to earth. And I think that we are hopefully going to talk about things that everybody kind of ponders, questions that are maybe things that are kind of quandaries. What am I going to do with this? What am I not going to do with this? And that's going to appeal to a lot of people in a very much a kind of real way.
Absolutely. We're both therapists, but we are not providing therapy, so to speak.
That is correct. Yes, we are not.
Okay. But we're therapists, so we kind of know what we're talking.
I feel like we kind of do know what we're talking about. I think that we have obviously the education to back that up, but more so importantly, the experience of working with thousands of absolutely amazing individuals that have helped shape our craft and make us who we are.
Ooh, that's such a great point. Because I've had so many people say, oh my gosh, you have just changed my life. I'm so grateful I met you. And I was thinking the exact same thing about that.
Oh my goodness. More times than I can count. I don't know that there's been a single person that hasn't walked through my door that hasn't in some way, shape, or form influenced me and changed me, has challenged me in some way and helped me grow as a person.
I love that. You're such a great person.
Ah, thanks, Trev.
All right. So, Jen, what would you do? Or what do you think about this? Len, cut this part out.
Let's do this, Trev. So let's put this hypothetical question out there. That is something that is a little bit controversial right now that we're going to see if we can kind of work through this. So, So here's my hypothetical questions. You and I are both parents of teenagers.
Yes.
And we have a lot of challenges that we face at home with teenagers and in today's world. And I'm going to put this out there. One of the things that I think is kind of a thing right now that I'm not sure how I feel about is this tracking your children on Life 360.
Ooh. Okay. So tracking, and it doesn't have to be Life 360 because there are other ways to follow, right?
Yes.
So you're kind of bringing up this question of, is that something that parents should do? Is there an issue with doing that? Is that fair to the child? Here's where I come from with that. I really loved, I was a teenager, not being tracked.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
There were times that I was in locations I should not have been.
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah. However, being on the other side of it now, there is some benefit for safety to be able to see where your child is. I think that if there's a healthy balance, meaning you utilize it to make sure your child is safe, that is great. I do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the problem comes if you are not allowing your child some space to kind of live and learn, if you're constantly texting, calling them, hey, why are you there? Why are you on this street? Wait, why'd you go here? I don't know how I feel about it. Well, I do know how I feel about that. I think that is too much.
I agree.
You're doing too much.
Okay. So I absolutely, completely agree this is one of those I think that it's a kind of a hot topic right now with parents and kids. And I've seen a whole kind of array of variances of this, where some parents have it just simply, they don't ever actually pull up the app, whatever it is, and check. It's more that the app will maybe alert them if there's an emergency. So, I can understand that. I've seen it where parents micromanage their children, and every move they make, they're obsessed with seeing exactly where they are, how fast they're going at every moment of every day.
Well, and let's talk about how that's not healthy for that parent. Talk about the level of stress.
Agreed. I think it's a control thing, right? I think it's more that parents, and so really kind of my point of view on that is that if you take it a step below like the actual app and think, okay, what are we trying to achieve here? So we're trying to achieve, one of three things. We're trying to achieve maybe to make sure kids are safe. But ultimately, let's face it, if they're not safe, we have to be able to give them the skills to reach out for help if they're not safe. So that kind of negates that one. It could be an unhealthy relationship with the parent and child, where the parent feels very much the need to control every movement that the child makes. That is incredibly unhealthy, and that needs to be changed, I feel like, because then the child doesn't ever have any autonomy or any agency over their life. Or it could be just simply to just know, for peace of mind, whatever that looks like. But I think in any of those instances, I think that the other thing is, if you dig a step deeper, is what is the message you're sending to your kid? Every kid is different. So there's no rule book for parenting. There's no way to know if things are, if your parent or if your kid is doing what you want them to do or not want them to do, whatever. But trust, that's kind of where I'm going with that. So if you trust your kid, and here's the thing, kids are going to make mistakes. So most parents are probably going to reply and go, I don't trust my kid at all. Well, okay, so let's break that down a little bit. If you're raising your kids to be good humans, that's a whole different ballgame than trusting your kids. So your kids are going to make mistakes. Your kids are going to do things.
There are some parents who are going to be so offended by what you just said.
Really? Okay.
But I think you should keep saying it. But what I'm saying is, there's a whole section of parents out there who feel that they have the right to control. They have the right to control all of those pieces. And their kid isn't going to become a good human unless they're controlled.
Yeah. So here's a thought. So for that, the more you try to control something, the more out of control it gets.
Preach.
So by trying to control your child, I think what you're teaching your child is that they're untrustworthy. That digs definitely into their inner core self of who they are. That hurts their self-esteem and their self-worth. You're stifling them from being able to be a responsible adult by controlling everything that they do. And they are going to sense that. And more times than not, I feel like they're going to become more out of control the more you try to control them. So the very thing you're setting out to do is the very thing that you're promoting within them. Or I guess the very thing you're setting out to prevent is the very thing that you're promoting within them, which is to breach and push against you to find that, because they want that. They're kids. They're going to learn. They want to have independence.
That's absolutely true. Here's where I would beg to differ or bring up some pieces that could make a difference, because what you're describing to me sounds like a relatively healthy, quote unquote, kid in a relatively healthy, quote unquote, family.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that we have all kinds of families with a lot of dysfunction, where we have addiction problems, we have abuse, we have parental domestic violence, or even discord, where now we have kids who are developing mental health issues because of what's going on in their environment. And those children, we know, are more at risk for using or abusing substances at a young age. getting involved in risky situations, whether that be in relationships or in friendships that lead them down a path that now they're in harm's way, very differently than a relatively healthy child just having normal rebellion. So, how do we balance that out when talking about how appropriate is it to have kind of the watchdog apps on our kids and tracking them if we've got a family that is in chaos or dysfunction, and there's a real chance that this youth, if they're not a little bit micromanaged, is out doing things that put them in danger. How do we balance that out?
That's a really good question. I think for one, I mean, let's put this out there that every single family, every single child has a different, is different, period. So there's never going to be a blanket statement that is going to be applicable across the board. I think each individual family has to figure out what works for them. So that's a big thing too. But I think the other piece of this is, in my mind, I think of, okay, if you have a child that is in a situation where they have proven to make unsafe decisions and have displayed risky behavior, so there's a clear concern there as to their safety, putting into place these apps that will in some ways micromanage to try to help the parents stay more in tune with what they're doing, with the intent of trying to then prevent this child from continuing to make choices that are bad. But let's break that down a minute. Does it really prevent them from that? Isn't the kid going to probably find a way around it? So even with that app, the kid's still going to do shit. They're going to find ways. We found ways, even with whatever, safeguards our parents put in place, we definitely found ways. So my point being that the app isn't really going to provide the safety net that you want it to, or is it in turn going to actually make it worse? Because it's just one more reason the kid doesn't feel trusted. It's the way you use the app, I think, more than anything. So if you use it as okay, I'm going to put this on your phone, and then I'm going to question every single move you make, the kid is just going to find a way around it. If you put it on the phone and maybe don't question them about it, maybe use it sparingly, maybe allow them some agency and some freedom to do the things that they're going to do, even allow them to make some mistakes. It's that balance of where do you put it in there. But should it be where, in my opinion, honestly, if you have a child, whether they're a great child, a bad child, anything in between, where you're a parent and that you're obsessing and sitting and watching every move they make, and if they're doing this, you're sending them a snapshot of it to their phone and saying, hey, I see you. I see what you're doing. I don't care what kind of a person you are. To me, that feels terrible.
Yes. And I think the child is, number one, not going to respect that at all. So they're going to be annoyed, shut down, find ways to even further distance themselves from you.
Yes.
And that means relationship wise. And what I really believe in and feel like I know and I've seen is relationships are the key. So having relationships can get you through so many obstacles. So even if you're going through a hard time, if that relationship is there and that solid footing and ground is there, you're going to probably make it through okay. And let's not forget the benefit of going through shit, how that builds our character, how that builds us into someone who can handle adversity.
Agreed.
So
I agree 100%. And that's kind of where I think that whole, the relationship thing, I think that's something that we should absolutely talk about, because I think that relationship between parent and children can very much become very uneven and speaking to this very thing where a parent may feel superior, which rightfully so. However, it's the way that you impose that on a child is what you're going to receive in return. So what I mean by that, a healthy relationship between parent and child should be an open relationship where the child can come to the parent without judgment, without criticism, even when they've made horrible mistakes, and know that their parent is going to accept them and love them unconditionally.
But they may still have a consequence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's life. Life is full of consequences.
Right. But the relationship piece is we can talk about it, and I'm not going to annihilate you as a person.
Exactly. And I am also going to continue to give you my trust, even though you make mistakes. To some extent, I'm going to continue to allow you to live your life in the way that you choose, even if it's not the way I want it to. And if there's natural consequences, I'm going to let those happen. And I'm going to still love you anyways. I am going to sit there and I'm going to hold you and I'm going to support you through all of that anyways. I am going to love you no matter what happens.
And isn't that one of the hardest things as a parent, to sit back and allow your child to experience natural consequences? It's so hard. We want to rescue.
Oh my gosh. I think that probably to me is one of the, I'll be honest, that's a huge thing for me. I don't want my kids to have to struggle like I did. So I want to be able to provide for them the things that I didn't feel like I received, and not, because of anything my parents did, just because of it being different. So, but then and most parents, I think, can honestly say that now. We're in culturally, societally, we're in a spot where we want to rescue. We want to make things as easy as we can for everyone. But think of the value of some of the mistakes that you've made as a child, a young adult, as an adult, and how those
mistakes I made yesterday.
Exactly. Those natural consequences are what help you grow. I would choose every mistake I've made over again, even before my successes, because those mistakes have made me who I am. And so we want to not, we want to be able to give our children the gift of making a mistake. Let them make mistakes. It's a huge gift that we have the power to give them.
So what would you say is our lesson after this?
Good call. So my lesson after this session, it's a pretty controversial one. And to be honest with you, I think that probably is one that a lot of parents that are listening to are just rolling their eyes and going, yeah, you don't know my kid. Or you haven't seen what, I've seen, or you've been through what I've been through. And you know what? They're absolutely right. I haven't. I think the lesson is specifically stated that relationship based, that if in parenting your children and getting them to be prepared for life, I think that you have to give them some space to be able to make mistakes. You have to give them some freedom to be able to make their own choices, no matter what the consequences are, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But I think similarly, you have to be able to give them a relationship that they will come to you when they make mistakes and feel loved and not judged and not criticized. And that's a really hard thing to do. I think we all feel when we feel ignited when we're angry. We're angry because we know they can do better, and they will. So we come out at them with maybe a voice raised, whatever it is, or raised voice, whatever it is, criticism, a shutdown, something like that. And that has nothing to do with consequences. It's the way we respond to them. That relationship isn't there. And then that's what drives kids away. That's what drives kids to be dysfunctional as adults, is because they've never experienced that home base that loves them unconditionally.
Okay. I think that's a great lesson. The lesson for me after this session is balance is the key. Balance is the key. Balancing, utilizing technology that we now have that can give us or has some safety features that are helpful for us, can relieve our own anxiety. And we've got to own what is our anxiety.
Yes.
And what is actually called for based on experience. And then I think we balance that with still allowing our child to experience their life, their mistakes within reason, and grow, because that is something that I think the youth of today have missed. We really, as kids, made a lot of mistakes and we had to figure it out.
And I think that's a really, really
And that
good
served
point.
us.
It did. I think that's a really good point. And to that point, we grew up without Life 360.
Oh, we
grew up without cell phones.
I was going to say, do we want to age? Yes, no cell phones.
No, none of that.
And we made it.
We did.
We made it.
And today's society and today's youth will make it too.
Yes, they will.
But as a parent, if I think you've got to really take a step back and look at, what do you want for your children?
And I guess that's also a great lesson in what we just discussed. Parents need to identify what is their priority in parenting. And if it's relationship, they got to rethink obsessing over their watchdog apps.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so to end on that, that's a really good point. When you look at that, what is your intent with this? Is your intent to control? Is that control because you have something you need to work through? Or is it control of the child? And I don't know how, is this about you or is this about them?
Absolutely. And we, as parents, we have got to own that, I'm not going to give a percentage, but we got to own that there's a good percentage of shit that is our shit when we're parenting. And the more we're able to look at it and break it down, I think the better off everyone will be.
Agreed. And then what message does that send to your children?
Well, I think it sends them, it's important to take accountability, to look at ourselves, to heal things, to grow in things. And those are amazing lessons.
To embrace the perfectness that we all are.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that was an amazing first podcast.
I think it wasn't too bad.
All right.
Okay.
Till next time, everyone.
All right. Peace out.
Bye.